The IDF, Israeli Defence Force, has posted a video of what it claims is a walkthrough of a Hamas terrorist tunnel near the Rantisi Children's Hospital in Gaza City.
I want to show you a room where we found all the gear, the operational gear of Hamas. Hamas is using hospitals, like we showed the evidence in Shifa Hospital. In other hospitals, we are now seeing it in live in Rantisi Hospital. An operation still conducting right now. Look at what Hamas is holding inside the hospital. I want you to understand, this kind of gear is a gear for a major fight. These are explosives. These are vests with explosives. Yeah, it's a body vest for terrorists to explode on forces. Among hospitals, among patients, we have hand grenades.
Joining me live now from Tel Aviv is Israel's Defence Force spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner. Peter, thanks so much for your time. First of all, what did the IDF do around the Rantisi hospital? Were patients targeted? Were there civilian casualties as you were able to claim that ground?
No, we've been evacuating the Rantisi hospital now for 4 or 5 days. Encouraging the people that were taking refuge there to get out. We know for a fact that a terrorist and his henchmen that were with him actually escaped from the hospital while we were evacuating the people from the hospital. Indeed, we weren't. The evacuation took place with our encouragement. We were phoning them, telling the hospital administrators to move out, and indeed, we suspected, we knew, we had the intelligence suggesting that there was what we found, and as you see the images here, it's very clear that hospitals are supposed to be used for healing, not for holding up hostages and utilizing them as terror operations based.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Peter. I thought you were wrapping up, but let me ask you about Al Shifa Hospital, because there's been heavy fighting around this hospital. This is the one that has worldwide attention. Israel has claimed that there is a terrorist base inside and underneath Al Shifa Hospital. Do you have proof of that?
Everybody's been asking us for proof from Rantisi when we said we knew that they had. And here today we present the proof. So indeed, we are certain that Rantisi Hospital, Shifa Hospital, is much more elaborate, much more vast, and a center of operations of Hamas. This is one of the reasons over the last month that we've been calling for the people to evacuate and not take refuge at this hospital in order to differentiate and distinguish between civilians and the terrorists that are trying to utilize the hospitals as a hospital system, as terrorist infrastructure, as bases of operation. We are facing a merciless terrorist organization that has no problem butchering babies in their bedroom. Why wouldn't they use a hospital as a forward operations base? Shifa is a huge challenge, and indeed, we brought fuel for the hospital administration so that they could use some 300 liters in order to keep the incubators running. We're also trying to organize now shipment of incubators so that they can ship people around to move them south, move the children south. Unfortunately, with regard to the fuel, Hamas said to the administrators, no, you can't take the fuel. This is the challenge. This is the enemy we face. They have no regard for Israeli life, and they have no regard for Palestinian life. Who puts a forward operations base? Who puts command and control position? Who puts suicide bombs in suicide vests in the basement of a hospital where children are undergoing cancer treatment?
Peter, this is designed to make Israel make an impossible choice here. Do you disagree with that? I mean, the world is shocked by the power being turned off for babies in incubators. What do you say to that?
So it appears that there is a choice to turn off those incubators, which is, I don't know whose choice it is in the hospital, or if it's Hamas itself or Hamas's administrators that are running the show. Of course, if Hamas are utilizing hospitals, they jeopardize the safety and the protections of humanitarian medical facilities. We are operating in a way that we understand the sensitivities, we understand the need for the protection of the medical facilities, but effectively in their actions, Hamas are making those protections void. You can't expect us not to protect our civilians. In that video, that 6-minute long video that Rear Admiral Hagari presented, we see where people have been held hostage in the hospital. There were ties by the feet of the chair. You see nappies for babies. You see a baby bottle you see everything that was set up in that dungeon of the hospital with a connecting, linking tunnel for either for escape or for access. It goes to show how we are, the type of enemy we are facing. So we're trying to evacuate. The administration of the hospital in Shifa are not being helpful. Unfortunately, many of the international humanitarian organizations, instead of acknowledging what Hamas have done in Rantisi, and I would say deploring and condemning Hamas for doing so, and then realizing that they need to be part of the solution of Al Shifa Hospital and not part of the problem, and saying it can't be done. It can be done. It has to be done for the sanctity of the people's lives.
Their patients, you mean?
Yes, the patients, the people that are held up there. There are around several hundred of people. At the beginning of the week, there were several thousands. We've left an access point, so people have left, and people are evacuating towards the south of Gaza. Even today, we saw some more people going. But we need a larger effort, coordinated, and we're willing to coordinate that. And what we're trying to do now, I can tell you, this is trying to get incubators in so that they can use them.
Okay. This war doesn't end until you get your hostages back. Is that right?
Our war effort has two core goals. First of all, obviously, the hostages, 239 Israelis and foreign nationals. The youngest of those hostages, of course, 10 months old. Men, women, and children, elderly, people that were going to a party in the desert. So they need to be brought home. And the second goal is to remove Hamas as the governing authority, the terrorist entity that utilized all the forces of government, all the powers of government, in order to create a terrorist army to come into Israel and butcher and massacre and rape.
Yeah, sure.
And
Peter,
burn.
I'm sorry, I'm running out of time, so I'm just, forgive me for interrupting here, but if the IDF is saying Hamas has lost control completely of the Gaza Strip now, surely you're getting close to defeating Hamas.
The IDF has not made that statement. I think I don't know where that actually came from.
Oh, sorry, that's right. It's a foreign ministry. The foreign minister said that.
The IDF is operating on the ground. I would say the fact that Hamas are in hiding, which is obvious because they are cowards, does not change the fact that they still have a huge amount of forces operating. We've taken out several of their commanders, several of their field operatives, many of their terrorists, in their hundreds and perhaps even thousands of terrorists already being killed. But they are still in charge. They still have capabilities. Their leadership, Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the massacre, is still free. We need to bring them down. We need to change the paradigm and make sure they never wield the sword of death above our heads again.
In the last 3 hours, the Hamas military wing spokesperson, unnamed, says that they told mediators, Israeli mediators, I'm assuming, that they would be willing to release up to 70 women and children that are being held hostage in exchange for a 5-day truce. Is that something that you would consider?
So I can't obviously acknowledge anything Hamas says. Everything they say publicly is all part of their, I would say, psychological terrorism.
Sure.
This is an organization that will butcher babies in their bedrooms. Why would we trust anything they say publicly ever? These people, as I said, from 10 months old up till men and women in their 80s, they need to be left. They need to be let free now. The International Committee of the Red Cross have to have access to them in order to assess their well-being, and they need to be brought home.
But to get 70 hostages back, to get 70 hostages back, would you consider something like that?
That's not something that the IDF is considering. We are operating in order to find the operational capability, utilizing intelligence and operational activities in order to bring them home. We're operating on that level. Of course, there is a diplomatic effort that is not managed or conducted by the IDF, Laura.
Joe Biden, just quickly in the last hour or so, has said that Israel needs to essentially protect Gaza's main hospital. Anything wrong with that?
No, I'd say we are currently the only organization in Gaza that is protecting the hospitals in Gaza. Hamas are putting them at risk. Hamas are using them as human shields, the people in them as human shields. Hamas is using the installations, the compounds in, around, and beneath as staging grounds for attacks, for command and control positions. This is the challenge that we're facing. As I said, we supplied fuel that Hamas did not accept to be brought into the hospital, fuel that could have saved lives. We are trying to get incubators in that will be mobile units so that the people, the babies that need to be evacuated can be evacuated safely. So there's a whole effort that the IDF is conducting, a humanitarian effort in order to safeguard the hospitals, while Hamas, and another piece of footage that we released today was a footage of the Al-Quds hospital where you saw a terrorist with an RPG stroll across the grounds of the hospital, putting everybody in that place at risk, and then he launched an attack against one of our tanks. This is how they're operating. We are bound by the laws of armed conflict. We respect that. That is us, what we do as a professional military. We take very seriously the business of warfare. We are doing everything to get people out of harm's way, while Hamas is doing everything to keep people in harm's way.
Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Laura.